Welcome to Part 3 of Section 1.1. We were working with the phlebotomist problem where we went into Blackboard and we got our data so that we could use MINITAB. We opened that up and we got into MINITAB. And remember how we began that? We went into our sessions window, went to the editor and enabled our commands that we have the MTB prompt. And now we're going to do frequency tables, bar graphs, and pie charts. Now, as I said, I'm going to teach using drop-down commands. We have files where you could use regular command and command lines, and I'll do a little bit of that also. If you do enable the commands in MINITAB, you'll be able to see what commands MINITAB used to get the charts that we see by using our drop-down commands up on the top. So the first thing that we're going to do is do a relative frequency distribution, or frequency distribution, excuse me. So we go to Stat, it's a drop down, we want to go to Tables, and then we want to tally the individual variables. Luckily we only have one column with variables, so what you do is the variables that we want, you have to go in here, you have to select it, click on that and then hit select. And we just want counts, so we're going to do a frequency distribution and we hit OK, and there's our table right there. And the commands that you would use to do that would be tally, and you could put the title of that, or you could put C1 and then a semicolon and tell MINITAB you want counts. So there we have our table. Now we can do our relative frequency distribution, and all you do is you go into Stat, Tables, Tally. But this time, and we've got everything selected. If we didn't, we'd have to select it. But this time we don't want counts. We want percents, and we hit OK. And now we have a relative frequency distribution. Now in the book we always see that we have both of them, so we could do this and get both of them. Tables, tally, and get counts and percents, and hit OK. And there we have the relative and the frequency and relative frequency distribution. Now let's say for some reason we wanted percents first. Well, this is when we'd have to customize a bit and do commands to do this. So if I wanted to do that where I wanted the percent column to come before the count, I would do this. I would say tally C1, and in MINITAB, if I hit enter, I would just get a frequency distribution. So I need to say MINITAB don't wait a minute. So what I do with the wait a minute is to do a subcommand. So semicolon tells MINITAB wait a minute. I want to do a I don't want you to do your normal. I want to change it up a bit. So this I'm going to say I want percent first, and then I want to tally. Then I want the counts. Excuse me. And now I'm done. And to let MINITAB know I'm done and for it to do what it needs to do, I just put a period and then I hit enter. And I will now have a relative frequency table. Now it's time to do the bar graph of this data. So for a bar graph, I go to my graphs and I want bar. And they call it bar chart in MINITAB, but that's a bar graph. I hit that. I want counts of unique values and I want it to be simple, just a simple bar graph. And now I have to select my categorical variable, so make sure that I'm clicked in there. I select it and I hit OK. Now I could take all these options and do little things in those little options, but I tend not to, so I do the basic MINITAB bar graph. But that means I've got some stuff to do. Now the first thing is, as I told you in Stat 250, we want to teach you how to do very good titles so that if you should ever even be out of this class and do some sort of presentation, your presentation will be very good, exact, and the picture will say everything that it really needs to say, and very few questions will have to be asked. So the first thing you do is I need to change that title then. And so what's a good title in Stat 250, and how do I even change it? Well, I double left click on this on my mouse and I change this to, and this is the title that will always be in Stat 250. You say distribution of, and then you give your variable, and our variable is blood type, and then you give a little more information, and for this it's for a sample of 50 patients, something like this. So I hit OK, and then here I could change blood type for 50 patients. And since this is a frequency bar graph, I just leave that as counts. And oops, and now I have a really nice graph. And I can do other things to this if I wanted to. I could add. Now what I did there is, oops, I right-clicked on my mouse and I said add, and I want to add grid lines. It always makes it nice for the person to see grid lines because they can go back to see how many are on that bar. I can also, if I wanted to, color my graph. So what I could do is go to each of these different bars and I could edit the bar, and I could change to colors if I want to, and the way the bar looks. So let's say I want to change colors. You'll get a color palette. You can't see it because it's over on I can't get it over here for you to see. But let's say that I wanted to change it to red, or let's say blue. You can change the color there, or again change the type. I want to customize it and I want it to be hatchety or something like that. You know, I could do that. Change its color with the color palette and make that, you know, light blue or something to that effect. So you can change these up. If I didn't want to call that count, I could give that. I could change the scaling over here if I so desired, like this. And I could say instead of having 6 ticks, I want, you know, 12. So now I have that. You can do anything that you like in there. So just different ways. You should really get into MINITAB and mess around with this, because even with the titles, I could change the color of the title in here. I could change the font, make it bigger. You know, what type of font that I wanted. Anything like that, you can change it to how you'd like it. Now let's see what I could do if I wanted this to be a relative frequency chart. Now I don't like that it has so many tick marks in there, so I'm going to change it back to the 6 that it was, because that seemed to look less cluttered. But how do I change this to a relative frequency bar graph? It's very easy. I right click on this and I go to Graph Options, and now I say I want to show Y as a percent. Now it's time to do pie charts in MINITAB. To do a pie chart, you go back into Graphs and you go to Pie Chart. Now I want to get the categorical variable, so I put my cursor and I click in there and I select my categorical variable. Now again, I could go in here and change things right now, but I'm going to do MINITAB's general pie chart. And there you have it. So I can change the title. Again, to make a good title in Stat 250 is to say distribution of, blood type, that's the variable, for, and a little description, sample of 50 patients or something like that. Now things that I can do, you see how the ledger's in there, and maybe the red and the orange are too close in color and doesn't look good. You can individual slices and change the color. So I could custom and change that color, or you could put hatchety marks in there, you know, whatever you'd want to do. But you could change the color, just like you did with the bars. Now what we also like very nicely to do is I right-clicked and I'm going to add slice labels. And we generally like the category name and the percent. And you have a really nice graph now, a really nice graph, pie chart, that you can read everything. Now if you wanted to put words in here, so I could type A blood to be a little more descriptive, I could do that and change that so that they know that that's type A blood. So you can change these. You can even change the labels on here. If you want to change that one, you click on that and you can change that to type A blood. So again, you can get right in there and change labels in there. If the word is too long, then you could add a subtitle and just write subtitle things in here, like you could say A is A type blood kind of idea. Oops. Let's cancel that. So many different things you can do in MINITAB. You really ought to get in here and try it. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Bye.